Yo, Triple H, big man, where the fuck were all the surprises? Where the fuck were all the monumental, historic moments that we were going to get? This is why, every time I listen to Triple H nowadays, I just get fucking pissed off because this fucking guy is such almost a politician, right? He just comes out there, he tells you what you want to hear as far as, the current direction that WWE is heading in and the current direction that they're taking the company in. Like, I think there was a press conference, a day or so ago where he mentioned that, this Wrestlepalooza, there's going to be some big happenings that occur here on this show, so you're not going to want to miss it. And me, along with a lot of other people that kind of are familiar with this shtick, we're calling bullshit right away. And I hate to say I told you so, but at the end of the day, I told you so, because here tonight, we had some pretty good matches, mainly due to the mixed tag team match and the Stephanie Io match that we had here tonight. But as far as major surprises, major things that would leave you, talking as far as, man, did you see that Wrestlepalooza show? It was a kick-ass show. There really wasn't much here. I would have suspected they'd done a Drew McIntyre title change or a Randy Orton heel turn or something along those lines for the main event, because that's kind of the lasting impression that they leave you with, is what happens at the end of the match during the main event. But I'll get to the main event here a little bit later. I want to start off here with John Cena against Brock Lesnar. That was the opening match here. John Cena against Brock Lesnar. Man, in 2025, I can't say that I was, dreaming of this match. And after this match, I can't say that I ever want to go back and watch this match ever again. They tried to do sort of a miniature version of the SummerSlam 2014 match here, where Brock Lesnar essentially destroys John Cena here. John Cena here got some offense in, I think maybe 3 AAs, but that wasn't enough. Brock here got 6 F5s, and that's how the match was over. Very, premature, very abrupt finish to the match. Afterwards, Brock attacks the referee. Brock gives one last F5 to John Cena, and that was basically it. And me, along with a lot of other people, kind of left this match feeling like, what the fuck was the point of all this shit? If you're gonna have this match, at the very least, wouldn't you want to put John Cena over? It's his final last couple of months here. He has 4 appearances left, 2 of which may be matches, so why not have him win here? He's never had a definitive win against Brock. I know he had 1 win against him, but why wouldn't you give him a win here? The only other reason that I could suspect them giving the win to Brock Lesnar was because they want to have him in the War Games match, and they want to have him pair off with the Vision. We saw a little bit of that here with Paul Heyman introducing Brock Lesnar before the match. That's the only other reason that I can see for a Brock Lesnar win. But to be fair, if you ask me, this was never on my, top 10 matches that I want to see John Cena have at the end of his run, at the end of his career. I would have rather preferred here an AJ Styles, Dominic Mysterio, Braun Breaker, something along those lines, because this was probably the worst match on this entire card. After that, we moved on to the tag team match between the Usos and the Vision, the Braun Brawns, with the last minute addition of LA Knight being the special guest referee. Very fucking random. I found out about it as soon as everybody else did. I was like, wait, what? Why not announce this during Raw? Give yourself somewhat of a build up here. But to be honest, I actually enjoyed this match as far as the second half of this match, because it kind of got a little chaotic here with LA Knight being the special guest referee. There was obviously some tensions between him and Jay. He was very lenient as far as using tables and using chairs and whatever the case was. It also looked like Jay actually caught himself real fucking good with the steel chair, the tip of the steel chair or whatever it was, because afterwards you see just a blood gushing from Jey Uso's face. It seems like they called inaudible here, because I distinctly heard LA Knight tell, I think, Braun Breaker to hit him with the spear. He speared both Usos into the table, and then Bronson Reed got the tsunami and got the win. So like I mentioned here before, I think the Vision kind of needed to get the win here, because the Usos, they're already kind of self-made, and they obviously got some sort of, tension, some sort of story here with LA Knight, and I feel like the vision as far as Braun and Bronson, they could kind of use that win because they already took a loss here at SummerSlam beforehand, so I feel like they should have won here, and good on them for giving them the win here tonight. We then moved on to Io Sky against Stephanie McMahon for the vacant World Heavyweight Women's Championship. I think before the mixed tag team match, this was probably the match of the night. I did not expect, however, for them to actually put the title on Stephanie McMahon, because the story of this match was kind of, how Io's knees were shot, how she was kind of in a weakened state, and Stephanie took advantage, and Stephanie got the win over Io Sky. I was definitely not expecting that. I was definitely expecting them to kind of play it safe with Io Sky, because, she's obviously been the champion before. She could carry that championship for as long as you want or as little as you want. And for Stephanie, we've only seen her in a handful of matches on the main roster, so it's kind of like, what are you doing this quickly, putting the championship on her? Regardless, I am happy that they put the championship on her, but my fear is that they just won't book her as well as they should have, because I remember a distinct time as well when Io was the champion where she was literally nowhere to be found on television, and then when she lost the title, boom, she magically appears on television. So as far as Stephanie being the women's champion, that's kind of my hope, is that they actually book her and book her well, because we've seen how these women's champions have been booked in the past. And then we had the mixed tag team match, which I think was the most hyped up match for this entire card, and I think it's probably the best match on this entire card thus far, because it was just fun. You had the return of AJ Lee, you had the sort of overhyped heels here between Becky and Seth. So for me, it was just a fun match. I definitely enjoyed the whole dynamic of this entire match. We had Becky Lynch and CM Punk put each other in sharpshooters. We had AJ Lee stomp Seth Rollins. We had a whole plethora of shit here. We had table spots. It was just a really fun match, and I expected AJ to get the actual pinfall win over Becky Lynch, but actually, to my surprise, she got the submission tap out over Becky Lynch. I think she put her in her submission, whole finishing maneuver, and AJ Lee got the win here and actually tapped out Becky Lynch. So I assume now the vision, no pun intended, is clearly AJ Lee against Becky Lynch at Crown Jewel within the next couple of weeks. I think this is probably what we're getting. As far as Punk and Seth, I did hear them mention that's the Crown Jewel thing, as far as champion versus champion, that's gonna happen. So I think Seth and Punk for the time being is probably gonna be on pause, but very fun match. The match of the night here, no doubt. Before we got to the main event here, we had The Undertaker come out here and I guess break the news here that Stephanie McMahon is going to be inducted into the 2026 Hall of Fame. I was so confused as far as why The Undertaker was out here, and one thing I'm not super fond of is every time we see The Undertaker, it's a biker Undertaker, which for me is like literally not my favorite version at all. For me, it's that dead man, whether it's 90s dead man, whether it's early 2000s dead man. That's kind of my childhood there. So biker Taker, I'm not really too fond of. But regardless, we got that announcement, and I don't even think Stephanie really even knew that they were going to make that announcement, because she looked shocked as hell. But we move on to the main event, which was Cody Rhodes against Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship. They moved this match to the main event spot, and now everybody sort of figured that something major was going to happen here. And especially with Triple H, talking all the time about how, we're going to create so many good moments here. It's going to be a great, super exciting time. Watch out for big surprises. Like all that bullshit that he usually spills. You kind of figured, well, okay, it's ESPN. It's their debut PLE here on ESPN. They might actually want to take a risk here as far as the main event goes. And as far as the main event in itself, I thought it was a pretty decent little match here. Nothing too crazy here. To me, it definitely felt like the first of a couple of matches here, like the first of a trilogy. Drew definitely has a case to run as far as the referee, because the referee was literally acting so fucking stupid. So he could obviously leverage that into a possible rematch against Cody. But at the end of the match, we had Drew attempt to Claymore Cody once again into the announce table, and of course the referee tells him to stop. Literally no reason to tell him to stop. Regardless, Cody moves out the way. Drew McIntyre hits the table, goes through the table. His foot goes through the table. Cody then gets Drew back into the ring. Crossroads, 1, 2, 3. That's it. That's the end of the match. Cody Rhodes retains, and we go off the air with that. And, you know, as soon as it ended, I was just like, is that it? Like, are we missing anything? Because I know they usually roll the credits whenever they want to shock you. Like, remember when Punk returned, they rolled the credits and then Punk returned? Like, I was expecting something like that, whether it was Randy Orton, whether it was possibly The Rock. I mean, I wasn't really super high on the fact that we may see Rock, but, you know, I figured, you know, it's ESPN, it's a big enough event. There might be some sort of, you know, correlation here with them wanting to do something big, whether it was the heel turn of Randy Orton or whatever the case was, but nothing. You know, we just got nothing. Cody Rhodes went off the air with the WWE Championship in hand, and that was it. Now, as far as the PLE in itself, was it a great show? Was it a bad show? For me, it was kind of just in the middle. I feel like if you don't have those two matches, the Stephanie Io match and the mixed tag team match, this is definitely a weak card by a mile. As far as my match rankings for this entire show goes, I would put the mixed tag team match first. I would put the Stephanie Io match second. I would then put the Jey Uso Braun Breaker match third, and possibly put Cody and Drew fourth, and then put Brock Lesnar and John Cena dead last. But post your comments down below. Let me know what you thought of tonight's Wrestlepalooza. Let me know what your thoughts and your reactions are to everything here tonight. And as far as that goes, I will see all of you on the next one.